Alrighty, part four, and as promised, the particularity requirement. Okay, so particularity, the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That is text that comes directly from the Fourth Amendment. And this particularity requirement prohibits law enforcement from exploratory rummaging. Um, I mean, it's not a free for all. It doesn't allow us to just go willy nilly searching and tossing anything and everything. We have to be looking in a specific place for specific people or specific things, as approved and ordered by the court. Um, Now, one place that we find particularity to become a little bit of an issue, a couple places there, is motor vehicles, domestic mail, and email. So you might recall, those of you who are not in the classroom every day, you might recall the case that hit the news here back in January of a teacher from Liberal High School who was arrested and charged by the Liberal Police Department for unlawful sexual relations or unlawful voluntary sex. I don't know, one of the two. They're so close and yet so different in indefinite. I think it's unlawful sexual relations. At any rate, you'll remember that case came about, and with that, I had a little bit of an issue in obtaining the search warrant for her phone. Um, because cell phones have serial numbers on them, the EMEI number or whatnot like that. Well, the problem was is she had some form of an iPhone to tell you what which model of iPhone it was. I don't speak iPhone. I don't know anything about them. Don't know the first thing about them. Can't understand how you can operate a phone with one button. But anyway, so that created a particularity issue for me. And so I gave the best physical description of her phone that I could in the search warrant. And I was like, it's a white iPhone with, this particular kind of a case on the outside of it. And it is currently held in the Liberal Police Department's evidence storage under case number 123XYZ. That was as particular as I could get. It's, whenever I don't even know where to find the serial number on an iPhone. I couldn't even tell them what model of iPhone it was. And so this creates a particularity issue. But as long as you can be specific, where you can distinguish that teacher's iPhone from all the other iPhones out there, then you're good to go. And I forgot one thing that I put in there in my particularity was, that I also included that I seized the phone directly from the teacher. So, a white iPhone with this specific kind of a case on it, seized directly from this person, and currently held in Liberal Police Department custody under this case number. So with that, it becomes impossible for me to get the wrong phone. Excuse me, to get the wrong phone out of evidence to search. And the same issue comes up with motor vehicles. How do you distinguish one dark green Dodge Ram from the next? Of course, there's license plates, but license plates can be easily switched. So a lot of times with motor vehicles, we'll go ahead and describe it, a dark green 1995 Dodge Ram bearing Kansas 123 ABC and VIN number, and give the VIN number. That way you have two very specific identifiers, on this vehicle that you can sort it out with. Domestic mail. That's for those of you who are not pre-email. Domestic mail means the snail mail or the U.S. Postal Service mail. How do we get specific about that? Well, kind of the same way that we get specific about email. I want any mail that was addressed to this person from this day to this day, or any mail that was addressed to this person from this person between this day and this day. And the same thing with like email, with the teacher that I'm talking about here. I put in a request to the school district. I said, I want all of her emails that she had between her faculty account and the student's student account between this day and this day. And of course, the school district was willing to oblige. But if I had to put it onto a search warrant, that's how I would put it. All of the emails originating from the teacher's faculty account, and I would give the address, and then to and from her faculty account with that address, to and from the student's account, and give the student's address and all that between this day and this day, because again, the point where the relationship started or whatnot. But that's how you determine your specificity. That way we're not having exploratory rummaging through everything in this teacher's email. We're looking specifically for the emails that can help me apprehend or convict. And so, like I said, their specificity is the key. Constitutionally defective warrants. So your warrants may be, you'll see I have at the bottom the severability. That's going to be separate from the three at the top. So a material misrepresentation or omission can make your warrant constitutionally defective. So if you knew that the officer was standing where he couldn't be whenever he saw the evidence, but you didn't put it in there, that's a material misrepresentation or omission and can make your warrant constitutionally defective, i.e., it makes your warrant no good. For a long time, the exclusionary rule was invoked at what is called a Franks hearing, which comes from that case of Franks v. Delaware we saw earlier. And the important thing for you to note is that in a Franks hearing, the burden of proof is on the defense, not the prosecution. Okay. In all matters of probable cause and conviction and all of that, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. But in a Franks hearing, essentially what happens is the defendant says, your warrant is no good. And so the court says, if you are going to assert that the state's warrant is no good, then it is your burden to prove why the state's warrant is no good. And so then below that, we have the severability as a partial suppression. So what happens here is at times, there might be time between the time that might be case law between the time that the search warrant was issued and the trial happens, that something happened that made part of the warrant no good, but part of the warrant is still good. So then you get a partial suppression of evidence. And this is kind of an inadvertent thing. It's not something that we did on purpose. It just happened, like I did a search warrant for a phone. And then suddenly, between the time that I did the search warrant for the phone and the time that it goes to trial, the Supreme Court comes down and says you can't do search warrants on phones anymore because of this. Then, the evidence contained there would be, inadmissible. Or if you happen to accidentally exceed the scope of the warrant because of the way that cell phone technology works, then that evidence would be suppressed where the other evidence would not be. But it's an inadvertent thing, not an intentional act like a material misrepresentation or omission.